You could have heard this episode 48 hours early on our Patreon, patreon.com/indieheadspodcast. By joining us for as low as $1 a month, we'll receive episodes early and gain access to our Discord server. All of our upcoming episodes will be up on our Patreon 48 hours before it hits our public podcast feeds. But if you're hearing this via our Patreon feed, we thank you so much for your support. We especially want to thank our Real Ones patrons, including Becca Etienne, Jordan Mikowski, Alex Gershmanoff, Rana Cruz, Alan S., Babe Bucco, Josiah Duncan, Janelle Fleur, Grant in the Back of My Dracula, Pablo Escobar's Hippos, Jackson Christ, Alec Felder, Sadie Nemo, Jeremy Bowl, Jonathan David, Sarah Moore, Max Kapazinski, Mark Barry, Aaron Helsamer, Darian Fisher, KRS420, Cal 50, Doodoo Ass, Chris Wade, Jacqueline Kataga, Jake Wald, Eraserhead Baby, Rob Marino, Max, Dylan, Waffle113, and Maze Farms. To become a real one, consider supporting us for $5 a month on Patreon, or receive a bonus episode every month and get a shout out at the top of the pod. Anyways, though, enjoy the episode.
Hello, and welcome everybody. It's episode 2, Best New Pod. We're back. We recorded the first episode. We're back for another. This is the only podcast on the internet about Pitchfork.com. The only one. This is it. We're talking about the best new tracks of the 2010. We're starting in 2010, and we are going through almost all of the songs that were awarded the illustrious honor of Best New Track. There are some exceptions, some canceled guys, although there's a very canceled guy on this podcast. We do make some exceptions when absolutely necessary, but there are various reasons why certain songs made the cut. We tried to make it just the most exciting, the songs we wanted to talk about the most. And this week we've got a great collection of songs and a great collection of two wonderful guests. So I'm going to introduce them real quick. You might know them from the internet, Jael, perhaps for her work on Politico and E&E News, but you most likely should in the future know them as two of the members of the band Ekko Astral. Welcome to the podcast, Jael and Bren.
Thank you so much.
What's up, y'all? How you doing?
Doing great. And as always, I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Matty, Rose. Gang's all here.
Hello.
How are we feeling today?
Yes.
How are we excited for this episode, Matty?
I think I am. I'm very excited to talk about a couple of these songs.
This is a very solid list. I think definitely more than the last one. Like all of these songs, almost I have like strong memories of from the time.
Yeah, this is an intimidating playlist to talk about. There's like half a dozen enormously consequential songs. Also, I'm here. I'm Lily. Hi.
Lily. Hi.
Hello, Lily.
Almost forgot. How could
We're about to introduce you. I was too busy talking.
This too busy talking. Is like 50% just solid classics for me, and then stuff that's just like I haven't heard it yet.
Yeah. Oh god. Yeah. I'm genuinely curious which ones you have not heard yet before we were preparing for this episode.
Shutterbugg, Round and Round, Dancing on My Own.
Oh, okay. That one. Yeah. That one is.
I get the first
two. Yeah. That's all of them.
Okay.
Dancing on My Own. That's like.
Jael, we have to explain. Rose up until like 2015.
I did not listen to like any modern music whatsoever. I was just like
Rose literally lived under a rock for like the first part of the decade.
And it makes for good podcasting because once a week someone gets like flabbergasted at a song that Rose hadn't heard until recently. But there's going to be more of those this week, I'm sure. But a lot of these are like so enormous that like you literally can't have existed on the internet anytime in the last however many years without running into a couple of these. So let's just get right into it because we're going to go long on a couple of these. One in particular I can already think of. But what's the first song we got this week, Rose?
It is LCD Soundsystem's Drunk Girls. Their lead single from This Is Happening, reviewed by Mark Richardson on March 28th, 2010. Drunk Girls, then, is a very good single, regardless of how it works in the context of the next LP. Like its first single predecessors from the band's previous records, Daft Punk is Playing at My House, North American Scum, it doesn't give much away and focuses above all on a good time.
Is that it?
This, great song.
Have a good time. Drunk Girls revels in something Murphy does exceptionally well, which is to embrace hedonism while simultaneously maintaining a certain distance, leaving room for perspective. He should leave room for Jesus, not perspective. Fuck that. This is a Christian podcast, first and foremost.
This is a Christian
It's not musical
podcast.
debauchery.
I didn't sign up for that.
But
we made the transition over when we did the Christian rock episode. I mean, we're a
God
Christian
damn it.
podcast. I mean, we're doing another Christian podcast.
we haven't done
like, coming
breakdowns
up.
for Christ yet.
Yeah,
And-
we're about to double dip on the Christianity.
Yeah.
but
I'm about to drag you all kicking and screaming back into that.
this
You act
song,
like I'm not excited for it.
it's gonna be
It's
a
you
good
and me and no one else. Anyways, Drunk Girls. I thought I was going to be really cynical about this song coming back to it. And I remain such an easy mark for the LCD Soundsystem goofy song that gets profound as it goes thing. Like this fully still works. I was not immune to it at all.
Yeah.
And like, I think it has aged the best of like the sort of, LCD like lead album single joke song sort of roster. Like I will listen to this any day over North American Scum now, a song I probably never want to hear again in my life.
It's one of the songs on the list that actually aged well. Few aged well, and I feel like this one really did. This you can look back on this 10 years ago and be like, yeah, this was actually a classic tune, in my humble opinion. I feel like, yeah.
I still have songs from this album on playlists that I listen to currently. This one is not one of them, but I do still actively listen to LCD Soundsystem. I think it's really good.
That's why I'm puzzled here, and I cannot believe that I'm the person on here that's about to do this, because I am perhaps the biggest LCD Soundsystem mark of all of us. This is like not in my top like 30 LCD Soundsystem songs. I don't hate it. I'm not like anti. Like I see the appeal, but like I would any day of the week rather listen to Daft Punk is playing at my house or I like North American Scum like 15 times more than I like this personally. But that's I don't know. I just
I should
it's very
say this
catchy.
is in my top 5 LCD.
It's very, very, very catchy. I have had it in my like head, but like it feels like it just sort of works its way in there by force, which is the whole design of the song. Is just like it's gonna keep hitting that same thing over and over and over again until you sort of submit to it. And I'm not anti it, but like I just even from this album, which is my least favorite LCD Soundsystem album, actually. It's better than American Dream, but most things are. I do not. I don't know. I've just never connected with this one, which is weird because I very specifically love this band and love.
So if I can say, this is the first LCD Soundsystem song that I had ever heard,
Interesting.
and I remember exactly where I heard it. Does anyone remember the phone game that was like Guitar Hero, but you like used your thumb?
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
I learned about
yeah.
so much trance music from that game.
Heard this song, and where I heard this was the first LCD Soundsystem song I had ever heard as a kid, and I feel like it's a really good access point song for this band. It's not their best song, but like I feel like as someone who's been heavily influenced by their music, this song is I can credit it with getting me into the band, because it's a great example of like what was said earlier about how I'm a sucker for that whole like fun time, and then it becomes like there's a message to it, James Murphy trick that he does, and I feel like this song is it's like quintessential Murphy, even if it's not the best James Murphy.
Yeah, I definitely will say that, like, even though I love Dance Yourself Clean, like, that song is, like, one big gimmick that, like, the more you become, like, used to it, it is not quite as, like, exciting as the first time you heard it, but I think this one does have... it has more staying power.
That's the song that I still listen to the most.
Interesting. I like it. I've always been more of the first album and the second album person ever since I started getting back into them. But I like that song too. I'm not against that song either. But like this song, I do think has a little bit more like replayability. I think it just like aged nicely, even though I don't like it. I agree that like, especially just knowing everything we know about James Murphy now, like the fact that he attempted this song topic and didn't fuck it up is admirable. Like there he could have slipped here, because James Murphy is not like the classic quote that I always think about from Meet Me in the Bathroom is the person that says, James Murphy is a cunt. Even some of his best friends in the world would say that about him. Which is just that he has a certain disposition that you just either have to put up with the kind of, and hopefully he's never done anything really bad, but
I mean, he's a bastard, but like honestly, the man can write a song sometimes. And
he can.
Like, really,
I will never deny that. Yeah.
Yeah, like this is in my top 5 for LC. I just think that chorus just goes like so hard, and it helps that like I really like all the layered details to it, especially with just like the specific like the gang vocal stuff they do, like especially when it does that part where it's going like drunk boys, drunk boys, drunk boys, like that. Just every little detail of it is so immaculately made, and it's like perfect for that. I've come to prefer like all the short, weird LCD sound system songs like this and Thrills especially, and like stuff like this. Go on.
I was gonna say I'm not sure when we'll get to talk about. It's probably gonna be a while until we talk about LCD again on this podcast. I do have to remember an LCD story between me and Lily when we saw them at Pitchfork Fest in 2017. Yeah, where like we both got like pretty close in because I think that's where we watched the Stinky Dirty Projector set.
I was like right up front.
What song was it? There was one song where it's like Lily and I were together, and then one song came in, and Lily just got like sucked into the crowd like that, and Lily was gone, just completely disappeared. Wasn't?
Oh, I didn't get sucked.
It was the first album.
I think it was Get Innocuous.
Like, all right, I'm in.
I was already the energy was cresting, and then as soon as I heard like the Get Innocuous like opening drum machine thing, I think I just looked back to you and was like, I'm off. See you later.
Yeah, which I cannot blame you for.
Actually, you know what it was? Is I knew that was coming. It was Movement, I'm pretty sure. Like I was waiting for a window to open to get up, and then like I just saw the perfect little hallway, and I was like, see you after the set.
I mean, Movement, if we're talking about LCD sound system songs that I just go like head empty mode, like Movement is one of those that I just put that on and I'm just like, these guitars, it's just like the catchiest fucking riffs to it. Like, I love that song so much.
LCD sound system, self-titled, underrated.
It is so good.
LCD sound system, first records, good. They're very good records. I lean more towards my favorite LCD song is the first LCD song that I heard, which is Losing My Edge. I still think that's a great song.
I still love Losing My Edge.
Yeah, it's just fucking great. There are the fact that there are at least 2 videos of James Murphy getting just slapped around.
I was going to get to that.
Look, if I had 2 nickels, if I had a nickel for every time that James Murphy got slapped around in an LCD sound system music video, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't that much money, but it's weird that it happened twice.
The man knows what his fans want.
It's so funny imagining him going like, oh man, I'm going to get a Spike Jonze music video. And then Spike Jonze is like, okay, James Murphy, we're going to beat the shit out of you.
we're gonna beat the shit and we're going to force spin
we're going to force spin James Murphy.
As a trans person, trans woman in particular, there's something very like egg-centric and like pre-transition trans woman about like LCD sound system lyrics, which are essentially about hating being an aging man. Like there's something very like repressed queer energy about LCD, where now I look back and I look at the way I felt like when I listened to those songs 10 years ago, and I'm like, yeah, that tracks. Like that's the vibe, and I still get it. But like, yeah, I mean, I feel like my favorite LCD sound system too is Movement. Mm-hmm. Like that is I think their most distilled perfection. But yeah, I think Losing My Edge and Movement is them at their like peak, and then over time they just kind of like another band on this list. Over time they kind of lost their.
I also really like Beat Connection from that album. That one's great, of their longer songs. Sometimes I can do with their longer songs. Sometimes they try and fail on the really long ones. But
I kind of gotten like, I've lost my patience a little bit for the slow builders, especially Dance Yourself Clean. Like after being a moderator of an indie forum for like 6 years, I am so tired of people talking about that drop. Like it's really not that special. It's like no guys, stay wait, it gets good at this part.
I will say, Rose, you bringing up Spike Jonze being involved with the music video, like are you surprised that was his impulse? Like, he's coming fresh off of doing all the Jackass movies. Like, of course he's like, let's be.
Oh my God.
I was about to say, having watched the first Jackass last night, it's like that's not that much of a leap for Spike Jonze.
With those. Like, I always think about what's his face, Lance Bangs. Like, for some reason, that's the guy I more associate with that.
God, boy. Well, Drunk Girls. We all agree. Good song, except for Jackie a little bit. But,
I think it's a good song. It's not not one of my favorites, but we'll move on.
Yeah. Oh God. Our next song. Rose, what is our next song?
It's Round and Round by Rat. Can we talk about the Rat song?
It is Round and Round by Ariel Pink's Haunted Graffiti, which again, we have a general unsaid. Well, we're gonna say the rule. We tried our best to cut as many like canceled artists as possible. Artists, like, we don't need to talk about this. This was Song of the Year for Pitchfork in 2010. We gotta talk about it, unfortunately.
Second best song of the decade so far in 2015, which is an insane thing to just
ridiculous.
I think they did listen like 2014. Did they do it in 2014 or 2015?
It was like 2014.
It was halfway through the decade. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
It was pre Album of the Year 2014 list, which is why an album by by two other canceled artists are way higher than they would end up.
I really whenever we start getting actual Pitchfork writers on this podcast, which we do have plans to try to do, our first question for all of them that were on the site at this time is just explain yourself. Explain Round and Round to me, because as someone who never got into Ariel Pink around the Pom Pom era, which is when I remember learning about Ariel Pink, and never got into this era of Ariel Pink, I hear this song and I'm just confused, and we'll get into it. But this song,
knowing what this song's reputation was, I could not believe that this is what this song is and how it sounds. Like this was the one for everybody. That like 40-somethings from Bushwick need to answer for their crimes with this song.
Yeah.
I want answers from all of them.
We've used the word time prison many times to discuss music on this song. I recently got diagnosed with ADHD, which makes a lot of sense to anyone who's ever met me for more than 5 minutes in their life. But even with my recently prescribed Adderall, just completing this song is like the hardest task I've attempted to do all week. Like, I keep getting distracted and turning it off like 2 minutes into it, because it is just the most meandering fucking song I've ever heard in my life.
Because the problem is, like, it doesn't do anything for the first 2 minutes. Like,
it does. And even
literally, like,
always thought that about all of Ariel Pink stuff. Like, I wasn't cool enough in 20 to know who that was, but once I did discover Ariel Pink, I was so bored, and I was like, really?
Yeah. It's the Arrested Development Her Award of the week. Like, her? Really?
Yeah. Ariel Pink feels a lot like like the film Back to the Future 3. Like, overly nostalgic for nostalgic's sake, and potentially conservative, and like kind of weirdly aestheticized in its even, you know, in its presentation. It's like listening to a story your mom tells you when she was like 15, but it's like distorted and doesn't even make any sense.
No, not at all. And
it's like, I mean, that does track, seeing as Robert Zemeckis and Ariel Pink are both disgusting with how horny they are.
I hate you for making me just think about Marwyn incidentally by that comment.
I didn't want to bring it up.
You did. Even though you didn't say it, you knew what I would think. Anyways, this song, I wish we were talking about a song we will soon be talking about on this podcast, which is Right Round by Flo Rida. Unfortunately, this is not that song. This is Round and Round by Ariel Pink, and it I don't even have much to say about it. It's on. And then it's not eventually.
Yeah.
It's 5 minutes of just airless nothing. Like,
there's like one part toward the end. There's like one part in like, I think like the third or fourth minute where he does like a vocal harmony thing that's like kind of nice, but I'm just like, I'm sure you're just kind of plagiarizing this from like a 50s or 60s pop record and making it just kind of more abstract and loose.
just like interrupt and ask like what I would like to know everyone's feelings on even just his presence today right now. Like what does it mean?
I will say he is probably the second most artistically talented person to have contributed to the January 6th riots. The number one being Jay Johnston because he contributed to that Mr. Show sketch with a mayo mustard mayonnaise.
Number one potential January 6th collaborator talent-wise is John Mouse, who was also there with Ariel Pink, unfortunately.
Jay right there. He did Jimmy Pesto.
The fact that the guy that wrote Cop Killer was at the January 6th insurrection is just what a world we live in, you know? Like
Yeah.
What do you think that means? Like what do we I you know, in my artistic, you know, Ekko Astral, you know, we are a bit of an intro. My name is Jael. I write about climate for a living, but I do music too. And my whole thing is kind of trying to understand and you know, empathize with people from the trans femme perspective, because I feel like often that's lacking. And when I kind of see in like doing my like day-to-day work, covering a lot of scientific stuff, and then also in my like artistic life doing a lot of, you know, trans identity stuff, is that there's this like common thread around like anti-trans and also environmentalism ideologies that like I feel like Ariel Pink and a lot of other you know, typically kind of understood in these like I don't know how to describe them other than hipster crowds, right? You kind of see these anti-civilization, or at least like, you know, nostalgic for a pastoral time.
Post-left existed, basically. Like,
well, I think about Ariel Pink working on MGMT's Little Dark Age, which Miri knows I have this kind of conspiracy around Little Dark Age, which is that Little Dark Age is an anti-civilization album. Like, if you listen to it, ideologically speaking, there's common threads between those songs on that record and Ariel Pink, like in what he believes.
I think Ariel Pink actually worked on that album too.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he might have been included.
That's why I raise it. He worked on that record, and if you look at, you know, the kind of ideas behind that song, the albums on the songs on Little Dark Age, and like what Ariel Pink does artistically as well as politically, there are these common threads around, you know, like rejecting technology that are oftentimes used against LGBTQ people to argue to limit their rights. So that's kind of why there's like this weird bridge between left and right that I actually think this song and Ariel Pink generally kind of really helpfully embodies from an educational perspective. Like, regardless of how you feel about it, it's like he doesn't really fall into one box here. Like, he kind of the whole reason we're even talking about this and kind of conflicted, I feel, is because we don't know how to feel about the fact that this happened.
It's very weird.
Like the fact that this.
It's also so like ideologically impenetrable. Like, Ariel Pink strikes me as like the very effete hipstery version of like guy who thought the Joker had some ideas. Like, when you can try and parse his music all you want, but like fundamentally he's like a guy who believes in nothing over anything else. And that's why he has to like drape himself in this easy nostalgia bait to like project an identity.
I think your theory is very dead on. My only thing I might say about Little Dark Age is that I don't. Maybe this is just optimistic of me, but I don't think MGMT are like on that wavelength. I think Ariel Pink is like trying to.
We said the same thing about Radiohead.
That's true. That's true. I think Ariel Pink is trying to push them in that direction, and they're more of just a like you be on that damn phone too much type of thing. Which is, I agree, it's corny and like.
Well, what's the difference?
Yeah.
No. I'm saying like in terms of understanding, like Ekko Astral. Sorry.
Oh my God.
I just made it. Jackie, put an echo on that in the edit, by the way.
You be on that damn phone. Yes.
But you be on that damn phone. Anyway, sorry, Jael, continue.
No, I mean, I guess, you know, what. So like in the, you know, the kind of politics that are proffered by those who, like, you know, we saw Johnny Greenwood like a tweet at one point, and it's like, what's going on with that, right? Like, I called that to Miri like weeks ago. I was like, there's this ideological realm that the UK operates in where it's like radical feminism, right? And you know, in that lens, why are like artists like Radiohead are super climate conscious, and yet at the same time there's politics like that? Well, I mean, the Ariel Pink's, the problem of Ariel Pink, if that's how you want to pose it, or at least the question of it, is it helps understand it a little bit, right? Like there's kind of there's something to pick at there, intellectually speaking, to, I think, better understand the current moment. That I think is worth at least, like, I don't know, musically speaking, what does it mean that he constantly is referencing these older times, right? Like he's playing in like the pastiche of the 60s and 70s in terms of pop music regularly, and kind of offering that and coupling that with, like, don't stop looking at my phone stuff, which is what MGMT does too, right? And also kind of, I don't know, just ideas.
That's all great.
Go ahead, Matty. I was going to go more Galaxy Brain. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize. I just want to say that's all great, but if I listen to the song one more time, I think I'm going to go like Manchurian Candidate and like assassinate the Prime Minister of Malaysia if I hear the song one more fucking time.
It's really
the song
bad.
Sucks.
It's really.
It is. Just,
I have an Ariel Pink story. My Ariel Pink journey is very similar to I'm not sure who said, where it starts with Pom Pom. That was the case for me, where my high school crush and then later girlfriend for like 2 months was really into Ariel Pink and really into Pom Pom. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna listen to this album, pretend that I like it. I was like, I like it, and then of course, now I'm like, but you didn't fucking like that album. Are you stupid?
Yeah, raise your hands if you all pretended to like Pom Pom in 2014.
I never pretended to like anything. I had an ex who was a trans woman of all things. Like, just like she loved Pom Pom, but more specifically the song "Sexual Athletics," and I was tortured by it. Just
God,
constantly.
Wait, Rose, without saying anything on air, that's who I think it is, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, which makes it even more baffling.
Yeah. And then I ended up like the person I dated after this person, I also ended up putting onto Ariel Pink, and she gravitated to him more than I did. So I assume both of these girls listen to Red Scare now. So things are going very Ariel Pink is pretty much it's like if you are a girl and you like Ariel Pink, you also listen to Red Scare. It's like there's no if you like Ariel Pink and you are a woman, you listen to Red Scare. That's not that's a certified fact.
I do think that, like, going back to kind of Jael's point, though, it is fascinating that, like, there is such a correlation without, like, moralizing these, like, artistic styles completely. Like, so many of the dudes who proliferated, like, the garage rock, the 60s rock, like, all that stuff that was happening throughout the 2010s. I mean, I grew up in Los Angeles and went to FYF for the 5 years in a row where Mac DeMarco played every single year. Like, every single year is like, Mac DeMarco played last year, but he's back again, because in Los Angeles, that festival was, like, basically the Mac DeMarco festival. Like, the kind of person you imagine on the internet, like, if you were to make a joke, like the cigarette, the beanie, the overalls, like the whole picture. And, like, you're right that there totally is a very, very thin line between that, like, kind of just like harmless, just like, nothing matters, to, like, actually, like, dangerous thought. And, like, you were talking to me,
like, evil, nothing matters.
Exactly. It's a very fine line.
I wouldn't even say dangerous. Like, look, like, it's right to be skeptical about technology in some cases, right? Like, I mean, studies say that Facebook is bad for you sometimes.
I often say the Industrial Revolution was a mistake, but...
Well, I won't go that. I won't comment on that. But I guess what I would say is that, musically speaking, what I find so uninteresting about Ariel Pink, and what I find so uninteresting about other artists that we guess heralded at the time in 2010, is like, they were proffering in a lot of the same, like like older ideas without really examining them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like this is harmless nostalgia for nostalgia's sake, at its best.
Yeah, it's
like
purely viewing it as an aesthetic, just saying, like, this existed,
and also ripping off Frank Zappa at the same time. Constantly. I remember I listened to Pom Pom in the car with my dad for the first time after he picked me up from an airport from college, and he was like, "Is this Frank Zappa?" And I was like, "No," and he was like, "Oh, this guy knows how to make Frank Zappa." And I was like, all right, well, that's like, Miss Frank Zappa.
I just want to really quick before we move on, because right now I feel like I'm in a time prison discussing this song. This is what Pitchfork had to say, not in the best new track review, but in their Song of the Year review, which once again, this was their #1 Song of the Year in 2010.
Oh yeah, let me pull the decade blurb while you're at that.
Yeah, pull
the decade blurb is horrendous.
Thinking about Round and Round this slot, I can't help but compare it to the song we had here last year, Animal Collective's My Girls. The connection between them starts with the fact that Ariel Pink first came to public consciousness with the releases of the Doldrums on AC's Paul Tracks label in 2004. Musically, that's also pretty much where the connection ends, despite the two artists sometimes sharing the hazy, half-remembered yada yada that became an indie cliche over the past 2 years. But I keep thinking of My Girls and listening to Round and Round because the musical differences couldn't be more starker. Panda Bear wrote a simple verse and chorus and alternated between the two with a rhythm that felt right, jumping back and forth until it seemed time to stop, then the song faded out. My Girls was naive and straightforward and full of heart, and people played it at weddings with a straight face that didn't even seem that weird. Who the fuck's playing My Girls at their fucking wedding in 2009?
The guy who wrote this.
That's true.
The guys who be on their damn phone.
Round and Round, on the other hand, has an intro, a variation, a funny little break with a sound effect, a section that pauses just before the big refrain, then that huge chorus where every musical, which by the way, huge chorus that like sounds fucking flat as fuck.
It's pretty limp.
It's a limp chorus.
There was one listen where I was like kind of tricked into like, oh, is this part good? And I was like, wait, no.
It's not good. It is certainly infectious. Like, this has been the biggest earworm of the playlist for me this week. Unfortunately, this is the one I find myself humming along to. Yeah, the hook in the second half, like, it does stay in your brain, and I don't like that it does. And I do feel like maybe part of the reception of this song was like, oh, it's earwormy, like therefore it must be good.
Burt Bacharach, which is a deep insult to me personally.
We should move on because there are a lot of good songs.
Also, just one more thing. One more thing.
Go ahead.
Can we talk about how that like opening bass line is like trying to rip Billie Jean without being Billie Jean? Like it.
Yes,
it is. So...
Again, with the cheap nostalgia bait, and I feel like there was such, like you see in this blurb and the mid-decade blurb, there's such like an air of mystique that these people seem to confer onto him. Like so much of the tone of the writing about him is just like, what is he thinking? And like now we know it's like basically nothing. And that's why this has aged like milk.
Jael, did you have something else to say about the song?
I aged like milk. Let's stop talking about it because it's curdled. This is terrible.
Yeah,
this is terrible.
Oh my god! I just was reminded. I'm not even going to say. I think I said it on this podcast before, but the worst Pitchfork headline of the Decade Award, easy, no questions about it, is the Pitchfork headline. It's like in the new Mark Kozelek song, he says that quote Ariel Pink would, if today was right, Ariel Pink would be as famous as Neil Diamond or whatever. Like it's all of the worst people in the world in one headline at the same time. For just maximum upsetting for me.
I have no opinion on Ariel Pink in terms of his politics, but his music is not my thing. Period. End of story. It is actually bad.
Yes, I agree. Let's move on.
Also, worst concert I've ever been to, Ariel Pink in 2017.
You told me that.
I was forced to go see Ariel Pink because my roommate couldn't make the show, and like. They strong-armed me into buying the ticket from them, even though I was broke as fuck in Chicago at this point. Terrible show. I felt like I was in a temporal prison, and I want to leave this earth and leave Ariel Pink behind.
Okay, let's go from a guy who's out of ideas to a guy who seems to only have ideas. Like,
yes, please.
Thank God.
Sure.
Oh boy, what is our next song?
I assume you've all seen the music video for this.
I have.
Nothing but ideas there.
Oh,
I have never seen that video. What's in the video?
So much.
We'll pull it up
I might
in a
pull it
second.
up.
Let's just have Rose read the snippet and then hear a little bit of the next song, which is of course Shutterbugg by Big Boy, our second Big Boy song of the playlist and the superior one for sure.
April 6, 2010, Tom Brayon. In his fascinating new history of the vocoder, How to Wreck a Nice Beach, the great rap writer Dave Tompkins makes an important distinction between the vocoder and the talk box. The talk box, that thing with a tube that sticks in your mouth, vibrates your skull while you use it, and its practitioners had to deal with hygienic issues and loose fillings and the threat of passing out on stage as a result. It is a highly physical machine. Something tells me that the rumbling vocal blurt that forms the backbone of Big Boy's new single, Shutterbugg, is all talkbox. The effect here definitely makes your eardrum shake. Over that warped, heavy Cali funk, Outkast's still rapping half is typically magnificent, slip-siding all over the beat, singing soul to soul, proudly claiming to be on the scene.
We'll get to that.
The real hero,
Which he does.
Shutterbugg might be disgraced pop rap producer Scott Storch, who hasn't cranked out anything this nasty since, well, ever.
I had entirely forgotten this was a Scott Storch beat. That is...
It helps it make sense. This is Scott Storch.
God damn! I mean, yeah. Now you say, I'm like, oh yeah, of course this is a Scott Storch beat.
But
like,
it is way
rocks.
less. It's really. I think the reason why it sounds way less dated than most Scott Storch beats is that like this song is so Detroit electro in terms of the beat structure and the synthesizer work, and because of that, like Detroit electro is timeless. You can still fucking play those beats now, and they still get people moving. It's just like a perfect thing, and I really love the way that this song utilizes that with the talk box. Like that's really all you need. It's so simple, and it gives Big Boy so much like room on the track to just pee on the seat, as he puts it in the song. It's incredible.
Yes. It's really magnificent.
All right, let's just get this video going so that we can just describe it a little bit. Oh, I will say shout out to Michael Brooks, who I believe they did an episode about the Pitchfork rescore article that they did, where Pitchfork basically said, like, here are some songs we would change the review of. And I believe they gave Sir Lucius Left Foot a lower score than they gave at the time. And Michael Brooks, among others, was outraged and was like, no, this album is still good. Don't slander Big Boy.
It is a good album, but what's so interesting about like the criticism of the rollout of this album at the time is that like this was really sort of sold as like an Outkast is back in a big way sort of thing, and then that proved to be very much like not Big Boy's trajectory in the 2010s. And so I think there's a lot of like let down expectations that people wanted the Big Boy run to be like Outkast Mark II, and it just wasn't.
Yeah,
which is not his fault.
It was a short walk from Sir Lucius Left Foot to Phantograms, the most forgotten group of the 2010s, which was
you mean Big Grams?
Yeah, Big Grams.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, Phantogram and Big Boy. I forgot the name.
Now let's talk about this music video.
First of all, the like lone caption that's just ugh.
Now here, I'm waiting for the reveal we get to in a couple seconds here, because you're all familiar with bands, the musicians who play with artists.
Yes.
They're usually people, but now we have a video that dares to ask, well, what if a band was Muppets?
And also a video that asks, what if a guy climbed a mountain made of sneakers?
Of shoes.
Every shot of this video is one of the most bonkers what ifs that you can imagine. Again, nothing but ideas.
The caption, there's just a caption that just appears on screen for a second. It's just the letter T.
And they break the rule of threes. The captions only happen twice. I was watching for the other one.
Another shot where a woman just starts walking up to him and he gives this contemplative look, and then all of a sudden forgets that and just goes to a mountain of solo cups.
Yeah, stop motion solo cups is the next thing.
We are about to leave the era of music videos with budgets, and this is like, we need to cherish the couple of high budget music videos we're going to get in this first like stretch of the playlist. Is this a high budget music video? Oh,
yes, it is.
He just opened his jaw and turned into like a.
The reason why this is definitely a high budget music video is it's like they're doing so much, and it's not like a whole bunch of money in service of one idea. It's just like, okay, we have this much money for the budget. Let's do this and this and this, and keep doing it until we run out of money. Like,
this is one of the last music videos that dares to just be like, what if a music video was just some cool stuff? Like, let's just make a bunch of cool stuff happen in a row, and that's all the video needs to be. It doesn't need to be like a, wildly ambitious statement or whatever, or have any kind of poignancy to it. It's like, here's that song you like, and some stuff happens.
What if a car had cool
very
colors
big budget?
on it?
It is a big budget music video with very modest ambitions, and that is definitely a thing to be treasured more and more these days.
Totally.
Also, just this random one white guy in the Dungeon family.
Wait, I also love the Dungeon family member who is not entirely sure what to do with his hands. That has always stood out to me. They leave him figuring out what to do with his hands in, because it was also like the one good take they got of Cutty delivering that particular line or something.
I really appreciate like just every shot of this going for the most of what it can be.
I also love the very, very loosely integrated like photography theme because of the title of the song.
Shut.
It's like that's the only criteria you need to fulfill, really. And then again, for the rest, we're just going to do whatever the hell we feel like, and have the top box guy in singing with a Muppet.
I didn't realize the talk box like does that to your skull in your
no,
brain.
Neither did I until I read that review. That is terrifying. And also now makes me feel very sorry and sympathetic for the talk box guy in this song, who, as I mentioned in the chat, really milked his 15 minutes with this song. I was like, I'm going to be the talk boxiest talk box guy that's ever been.
He's fucking awesome.
As he should have, because apparently talk boxing is like saturation diving, where you have to retire at the age of 35 for your health's sake.
God. Well then, this is a fun song. The line, every single time the line, I'm shitting on blanks and peeing on the seat, it just makes me hysterically laugh every single fucking time. I'm like, big boy, that's so unsanitary.
It gets sanitary because the music video has the censored version of that line, which is I'm taking a tissue and peeing on the sink. So, like, in the extended Big Boy-averse, there is some hygiene protocol going on.
I'm taking a tissue and clean.
Did anyone here listen
to clean up the pee right after?
Okay, well there you go. Yeah.
Did anyone here listen to the 2017 Big Boy album Boomiverse? I listened.
No,
there is one.
I did not.
There is one really, really good song on there, which is In the South, which has a posthumous Pimp C feature and Gucci Mane. That song is like, seek that out, but the rest you don't need to.
I dropped the Big Boy solo career halfway through the second album.
Yeah, I will say, like, I do love Big Boy. Sir Lucius Left Foot is like a classic rap album from that era. That's like the regular version is 14 songs. The deluxe is like 17 songs, and there aren't 17 good ideas. Like it's there is a pretty good hit rate, but it's not like a classic in my eyes. But I do still love and appreciate Big Boy, who always gets the bad rap as like the quote unquote less essential Outkast member, where real heads know that like the whole point is that there was both of them. Like, you needed both of them for them.
I'm sorry. I feel like I'm the least optimistic person in this group about this song. I feel like the person who always says that he's the. I'm sorry. I'm always the person who drags on Big Boy. I feel bad doing
get it,
like,
because he's right next to Andre, and it's hard.
I feel like neither member of Outkast, we really have gotten to see them get the kind of support that they would have needed to like really do a classic record after the group broke up. Like with Andre, he really tried to do it, and then with Big Boy, I feel like the labels never really understood what he was good at.
I agree.
So I feel like we Outkast is classic stuff, but even then, I feel like over time, they progress beyond where even the industry would let them go. I would love to see like a Big Boy album that was like independent, where he would, get to kind of be experiment more and be a little bit more freeform. I feel like that's not where he's going right now. But I mean, this is a good song. I mean, this was the best of his solo records for sure.
I agree. I think that maybe the reason why I mostly think that, even though I totally agree, like I really would love to finally get like what an Andre 3000 solo record would really look like, but I think it's really clear from the way that their careers have kind of gone that like, I don't know, I've always just thought that like they kind of needed each other, and once they got to the point that they were separate, like I think that Andre, as much as like one of one genius as he is, like he's now off in his own world where like the only music he really wants to make besides the occasional rap feature is like freeform jazz. Like he's just completely on that end of the spectrum. And Big Boy is like an entertainer in a way that Andre 3000 never was, and is like, I want to make the people happy and have the stuff that people can play at the parties, and like those two influences like against each other.
Andre's Cartoon Network show was easily the most entertaining. I'm sorry.
I've never watched his Cartoon Network show, but that I'm sure it's. I agree that like Andre is silly. That's not what I meant. It's just sort of that like they were so perfect for each other and so opposite, and just like it felt so like fated to meet each other. And I do think you're right that like we definitely should have gotten more out of the solo Big Boy career, and we should have gotten. I mean, Andre can do what he wants at this point, but it would be really, really cool if he was ever to do some kind of solo record that's like really ambitious and really trying to explore that more than he did on like Speakerbox Love Below.
Big Boy features these days are still top notch.
He's always good. When is he's like one of those actors in a movie. It's like, sure, he's not going to win the Oscar, but like, when is he bad? He's like one of those people. It's just like, you're never upset about Big Boy making an appearance.
Oh my God,
one of our most
sounds
important like
really-
character rappers of all time. Just like,
Oh,
all right,
right.
you just one of those guys who's like, oh, it's that guy. Even though obviously we know who Big Boy is, but just like, throw him on a song. It's like, oh yeah, it's that guy. I love that guy. Like a like a John Carroll Kirby or something.
Yeah, exactly. He's the grounding, and that's why I think that they make the perfect duo, is because he's just this rock solid presence, and Andre is so like free spirit, and like the two things colliding and collaborating is what I think makes Outkast magic, particularly. But
also, Big Boy, one of the only people that like got Jael to come out of hiding to make a song with him.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah, on the Fall Up record. It's a great song too.
Wow, I had never seen the Boomiverse cover before, and that is like such a 2010 B.O.B. type of album cover to have in 2017.
Oh my God.
It looks like it should be someone's like Xbox Live avatar, is how I would describe the artwork.
God. Well then,
Big Boy is logged onto the metaverse.
Let's move on to the next song, I think.
Yes. Our next song, Rose. What is song number 4?
Robyn's Dancing on My Own.
Oof.
Oh boy.
This is a big one.
Review by Ryan Dauble, April 19th, 2010. The first 3 tracks released from Robyn's forthcoming album. None of them, Fimbot and Dancehall Queen, pump up the Swedish pop singer's badass guys. She's sick of your whack shit. She's an invincible CPU. She's royalty. It's an empowering pose. Like Dancehall Queen, Dancing on My Own finds Robyn in a club by herself. But now there's some scuffs on her scepter. I'm in the corner watching you kiss her. I'm right over here, why can't you see me? She pleads, broken-hearted. This is the same Robyn that eyed an ex and his new what's-her-name at the station on Be Mine. We're not at the station anymore, though. We're on the dance floor. And the locale X is a blinding, booming haven for Robyn. Not merely an escape, but a place of utter revitalization. She's all messed up, so out of line, and her high heels are spiking on broken glass, but she's still moving. She can't stop moving.
The song,
Yeah,
goated.
I like a year ago, I think there was an Indie Heads, Pop Heads like rate exchange where I gave this like a 6 out of 10, being like, I'm not European enough to get this. The actual the thing is that it wasn't that I was not European enough, it's that I was in a relationship, and now that I'm very single again, oh boy, does this song hit way harder as a recently single person. Like, good lord. Like this is a fucking great pop song. Like, without it.
That's fine.
Oh,
I'm
damn it,
gonna be
Rose.
honest.
Pop song.
It's fine.
The great pop song.
It
This
is
is
the classic.
I will briefly tell my origin story with this pop song. Is that when I took a dance class in 8th grade, our very gay teacher would use this song as our warm-up music every single day. And this song in that moment in time immediately entered the canon of what I'm going to describe as, maybe I am a little fruity pop song canon. Just like, hey, this Lady Gaga song is making me feel some things. I wonder what that's all about. Soon to be discovered later on in my life. But like, yeah, like every time we touch Cascada, like Paparazzi, Lady Gaga, and like this is very much up there in that canon of me, where like I had this song kind of beaten into my head just by hearing it a bunch of times, but also like you hear this song 2 times and you're like, yeah, that song is just, it's really special.
Mm-hmm.
I think we saw Robyn at Pitchfork the last year I was there, and she's what a fucking lady, just crushing it still. This album is great. Robyn is great in general. And this is definitely like, it's her biggest song for it's when that beautiful thing that happens when like an artist's biggest song is like the song you should know from them for sure. Like, this is that.
It's got such an unmistakable energy. Mm-hmm. The one opinion that I have about this song is that I don't need to hear any more slowed down covers of it.
Oh
God. The fucking the Caleb Scott one would play in my Office Depot all the fucking time, and I wanted to shoot myself every time it came on. It's so bad.
And it's so like
fucking
counterproductive, because the whole point of the song is that she's dancing, the dance beat's there the whole time, but she's sad, and it's like, okay, but what if we just made it sad? It's like the whole point was the contrast. The whole point,
right?
It is one of my. It is like probably my least favorite trend of cover songs.
It's like the sound of the Sound of Silence Disturbed cover or whatever, or like just people that are like taking or like people that cover Hey Ya and they're like, hey, this song is happy and fun. What if I made it sad? And it's like,
I was about to say, this is like the Hey Ya of the 2010s where everyone's like, hey, you know that pop song? It's actually a bit of a downer.
And it's like, this one is even more obvious. Like Hey Ya, at least there's kind of like, it's a little more subtle. This one is just like hitting you right over the face. Like the whole point is that she's dancing, but she's watching him kiss her and not her. It's just obvious. Like I don't get people that don't understand that, but I love this song so much. The production is like so crisp, and that bass line is just like, it's perfect. And I really think that it held the fuck up as like, this is the one that when people were like the viral video of people leaving the Robyn concert in like New York and they were all in the subway singing this song. I'm sure it's this one, right? Like this is definitely that one. This is her anthem for good reason.
Just incredible pop song. Shouts out again. Like I was so fucking stupid to not think the song was like incredible. Like so fucking stupid.
And I think an important aspect of the song's legacy, I think, like if we're thinking about it in the context of the Pitchforkiverse, is that like this really kind of marks the beginning of like earnest poptimism, where like I remember part of the thing about Body Talk at the time was like, like it's a pop album, but also like the songs are really good and it's really like sophisticated and thoughtful, and that was still very much like a novel concept around this time. And I feel like this sort of sets the bar of like, if you want to get pretentious about a pop song, this is the type of pop song it needs to be.
100%. This sets the bedrock foundation upon which Pitchfork core pop music is established. Like Carly Rae Jepsen's Emotion does not happen the way it does if this song doesn't exist.
That's exactly.
I was thinking the exact same thing. That was my first. I'm so glad you brought that up. That I wasn't even fully realizing at the time, but this is like the start of a whole thing. Carly Rae Jepsen, that's the lines there, the through line. And also
there are a lot of gems of like where we're right now a little oversaturated with 80s pastiche. We've talked about it on this podcast. Like there's a lot of people that are just like, hey, I have this great idea. What if it was a new song that sounds like the 80s? And it's like, well, at this point,
no, it's so interesting. Who brought up Big Grams?
I did.
You don't get Phanogram without this. Like this is kind of the whole Phanogram Churches thing is that's fair. This record really brought that through, and then she came back like 2 or 3 years ago and did essentially what they were doing but better.
That album fucking rocks.
Oh god.
Again, I'm just like Robyn is one of those ones I feel like I had to be there, at the time to really get. Like this is just one of the ones that like artists has never really clicked for me fully 100%.
That's fair.
You did for this one certainly have to be there like a little bit. I think it holds up outside that, but in order to understand like how this became such an immortal song for people, when like if you're to remove it from all that context, it is basically like a very functional, smartly written pop song, but a certain type of person started like paying attention to music at the exact point where this like the idea of a functional pop song was like totally radical.
Incredible song. What more is there to say? Any final thoughts before we move on to the next one?
No.
The soundtrack, a lot of queer experiences in my personal life.
Oh yeah.
There we go. Well then, our next song, Rose. What is our next song?
This one's "Tell 'Em" by Sleigh Bells.
This one, I was vaguely familiar with Sleigh Bells. I had listened to some of their stuff, but when we listened for this podcast, I was like, "Well, holy shit! This is the blueprint right here. This is 100 Gex is born in this moment." Like, 10 years later.
I mean, it's very telling that like they booked for the 10th anniversary show of this album. They originally booked Black Dresses as the opener because like
100%.
This is just like the blueprint for so much. Loud pop is the phrase I would use. Like specifically,
and it's so
there's
out of step with what's happening right now in pop music. Like, we just talked about Ariel Pink for too long, and like this is so the opposite of that. Instead of just like these washy retro quote unquote dreamy like indie pop. Like this was just like, hey, what if something was really loud and really obnoxious, but like in a fun way? And that
I'll remember around this time they did a limited tour, I think in the Southeast with Liturgy.
Oh fuck yeah.
That tracks.
That was and Liturgy wasn't even playing like she wasn't even playing with a band. She was just playing by herself with like a drum machine in the background. And I feel like that's you're so on it. Like this is Death Grips too. Like this is a whole wave of music that came out of this, you know, it's like lo-fi cheerleader EDM. I don't know. It's sleigh bells. It's great.
Cheerleader is a great word for it because that is exactly like specifically with sleigh bells. It's like the very kind of cutesy like vocals and melodies contrasted with just like what if we made guitars sound like shit on purpose, like and like these really like buzzing synths. Yeah, very very much like foundational for a lot of, and it really like we kind of talked about with like Death Grips, like it doesn't really like spread like wildfire right away. It's not like the song came out and immediately everyone was like, oh, we got to start doing this. Like this is a real slow grower, and
this is a classic album. Yeah, this is a classic album.
It's really good.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the reception of Sleigh Bells in the decade after, they certainly did not get their dues immediately, as you can tell. Otherwise, they might still have some extent of influence here, but like direct influence, I should say, instead of indirect, because at this point it spiraled well beyond them.
Totally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This might be my favorite song of the playlist this week.
Wow, that's a good one.
I mean, top 3 for sure. Like I was surprised at how much I ended up just like loving this track.
It's like my third favorite song off this record, so not really my immediate choice.
And it is like so easy to take for granted how wildly contemporary the song sounds. Like I didn't even really register when I first listened to it because I weirdly, given my current taste, never had a Sleigh Bells era somehow, and had never heard this song, and like was just like, oh right, this is 12 years old, and like you could put this out today and no one would like blink twice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great song. I mean, again, go back to this one. This is one I think pretty much almost every song here we're talking about is one that's like 2 or 3 like you haven't probably heard in a while. This one, like if you haven't heard this one in a while, go back to it. Like it sounds fresher now than it did back in the day. Like,
yeah, 100%.
And to close us out, I figure I'll give some words from Ryan Domble. Circa April 28th, 2010. When you're pushing that new sound in 2010, it does not hurt to be the loudest. We're all going to be popping hearing aids by 40 thanks to MP3s and earbuds anyway, right? May as well make those hearing years count. So sleigh bells make music to blow your ears out to. You may not be able to grasp certain frequencies after bracing this particular waveform, but you will not regret it. Trent Reznor wishes he thought of this. So does Little John.
Yeah, it's again only in 2010 could Pitchfork invoke Trent Reznor and Lil Jon in the same sentence.
And Jack White in the third.
And Jack White about sleigh bells of all bands. Like, but okay, sure.
Even though the writing is not the best, though, this is one of the. When occasionally we will give them credit of like, yeah, you fully called it with the like giving this best new track. You saw the future in a way that was somewhat prescient.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Well then, let's go to our next one. Rose, what was our next song?
It's Big K.R.I.T Country Shit. Review by Tom Brayon, May 20th, 2010. Country shit, an entire aesthetic conveyed in 2 words. Mississippi rapper-producer Big K.R.I.T spends all of K.R.I.T was here, his new free online album, exploring the aesthetic territory mapped out by mid-90s swamp rap types like Goody Mob and 8Ball and MJG. There's not a lot original about it, but K.R.I.T commits fully, and he knows how to put these influences together. On Country Shit, he borrows Pimp C's twanged out elastic snare and just rides the ever-living hell out of his own woozy thump. As a producer, he's an expert sample chopper, and his track weaves in theremin peals and stuttery sighs and a vintage 808 destruction. It's the sort of track you want to use to make sure your car stereo's bass pounds just right. If you don't feel like a superhero while this is playing loud, you need a new system. This song, oh my god, this song rules. This is like probably. Oh my god, a drop every time.
It's really, really good. My only thing with this song, which I think I told Rose you this before, I only listened to I was like mostly familiar with the remix of this song, which now having listened to both is the worst version. Like I will readily acknowledge that the remix is not as good as just the regular Big K.R.I.T one, but the regular Big K.R.I.T song doesn't have Ludacris on it, and Ludacris is very funny and entertaining to me, but I really do love. I mean, Bun B is also on the remix, and like that's the most obvious comparison point to make. Is this is like just UGK for the 2010s, and like now that I have just a tiny bit more of a knowledge of like Southern rap history, like this is less like mind blowing to me. But at the time, before I had heard UGK or Scarface, like hearing Big K.R.I.T melted my nerve receptors just completely. Like this was so exciting and fun and got me into that album, and then eventually I fell off the Big K.R.I.T train. We'll talk about that, but this is a really fucking good song.
Even as somebody who's like indulged in all that stuff, this song still just gives the perfect dopamine because he's just like he is leaning into it so hard that it just works.
Totally.
Yeah, I was I mean, I maybe I was too quick to write K.R.I.T off back in the day. Maybe I need to like go back and listen to some of those records, because like I kind of just wrote him off as like Southern J. Cole pretty much, like back in the rap forum days.
Yeah,
but
I
maybe
mean,
you're not
the
wrong.
stuff after this tape.
You're not
stuff
wrong,
after this tape.
But
yeah, he has that pivot, right?
He gets
like
more
once he starts releasing albums
as he goes along, for sure.
This original tape though is just like him fully indulging in like all the like tropes of, you know, the Southern rap genre, which is just like it works perfectly though. Like he knows exactly what he's doing.
And he is so good at it that you do wonder about the timeline where he just like remains doing this as opposed to trying to like become a J. Cole. You can't help but wonder.
I think he was a really good songwriter back in that day, and he still is. I feel like.
Yeah, I really like. I haven't revisited it in a bit, so I probably have to double check this.
They just put Return to Forever on Return to Forever Spotify now. It's still just as good. It's still
Forever is a Mighty Long Time, which is his 2017 album. It's too long, like it's like 22 tracks and like an hour and a half long, but I do, from what I remember of that album, I remember it being like a kind of return to form for him. He's a solid artist, definitely. Like now that I'm not listening to as much rap as I used to, like he's not someone that I gravitate toward a lot, because there are other artists I like that kind of do. But like if you're looking for what Big K.R.I.T does in a song, like Country Shit is the most purely. It's the great thing when like an artist's breakout single is like their essence bottled in a can. And this is a great example of that. Like all of his influences, his spirit, his energy, like it's all just like right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is very, very fun. I had it. This is again like this is just a very good playlist. Like, and one thing I missed too. I think we discussed this on the Death Grips Discog breakdown series last year. But like free online album. Hey, remember mixtapes? Remember when like just an artist would just be like, all right, like, hey, here's like an album, and then hey,
this is a very in between
as like a very in between, like, hey, I'm just gonna drop this mixtape, you know, like, hey, samples I can't clear, or just like, hey, I just want to go out, just put out something for free for the fans. Like that doesn't happen now. Like it's very rare that it happens. Like there's artists that'll market their albums as mixtape, like this year FKA Twigs, like her latest record is marketed as like a mixtape, and like my album of the year last year, Strange Rangers, No Way in Heaven, that was also marketed as like a mixtape. So
but it's like less now. It's more now.
Exactly.
Drake ruined it for everyone.
It's a stylistic indication rather than a distribution differentiate. Like it now mixtape means like a feeling more than it means, and the feeling that it now means is inspired by what you're talking about, which is that the mixtapes were a sort of lower stakes offering that could tide over the fans, but also in a lot of the golden age of this era, especially with like groups like Clips, like the mixtapes are kind of the secret sauce, like Mixtape Wayne, like everyone talks about, like how like sometimes letting some of these really, really, really great rappers, like just letting them off the leash to kind of fuck around and experiment and rap over beats that they don't have to get the samples cleared for and stuff like that. Like, and now we're at the era where like all of the albums I think of as being like landmarks of this kind of free era, rap music era, are getting their like, oh, it's Faces is finally up on streaming now, and like Acid Rap is on streaming, and all of these things that were kind of this generation that are now sort of in the streaming category. But I do long for this day of like the differentiation between like these free mixtapes and just like everything's coming down the same Spotify slop line that we're kind of in now.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It does feel like there's something kind of missing from that, especially with like the era of stuff where like people weren't even, going on their own stuff, like the classics like Dedication to
exactly.
We Got It for Cheap Volume 2, like that kind of stuff is good.
We Got It for Cheap. Those mixtapes are so fucking good. It's just, oh my god.
Yeah, we are like an hour in. How are we gonna get?
We
gotta start keeping it moving.
We gotta try to keep with the pace, but of course our next song.
I'll intro this one with the blurb because
it needs no introduction.
Obama called him a jackass. A nation booed him. Fucking Jay Leno almost made him cry on TV. Just when it seemed like Kanye West was ready to go into hip-hop overdrive after that 808s detour. Check the astounding pre-Imagate run of guest shots for proof. It's just Imagate, really? Come on, guys.
This is very 2010 already, but continue.
He was banished. Or perhaps more accurately, he banished himself. No potentially head-expanding tour with Gaga. No new verses. Almost nothing but art school models wearing next to nothing on the blog. He was gone for 8 months. The Eyjafjallajökull-style lighting plume that is power makes it sound like he was trapped in a cardboard box for 8 years. And now he's got something to say.
Rose, I'm so glad you did that voice because I think we need to talk about the writing for this song as much as the song, because I feel like this is the moment that, like, if you look at the track reviews we read up until now, they are literally just reviews of songs, and you kind of forgot a best new track could just be that. This is where they fully land upon the idea of like, no. Our track reviews aren't just like reviews of a track. We are like engaging in a conscious act of myth making around this person and like establishing a narrative that cements them as being like a part of our taste making orbit.
Yeah, it screams the Kid A review. Like I forget how that one opens, but like the opening of the Kid A review.
I've never seen a shooting star before.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Like it's that fucking shit.
It's so good.
Yeah, it is like the commodified 2010 version of that. Like again, I think this is really like the dark fantasy rollout in general is the moment where Pitchfork discovers like how they're going to be Pitchfork for the rest of the decade.
Yeah, totally.
Before the pivot to like, okay, maybe we shouldn't only champion weirdo white guys.
Yeah, that too. But yeah, where they become obsessed with everything around the music as much as the music itself. And like, even, I don't know if any of you went back and read, I remember being mad about this at the time, and I remain very cranky about it. Sorry to slander Sean Fennessy, but he did the album of the year blurb for this, for the 2010s best of list.
That's right.
And it is deeply frustrating because he like makes a whole showy thing of talking about everything like but the album, and it's supposed to be this kind of mic drop thing, and it's like, wait, no, but you have to talk about the album too, Sean. Like, you can't just make it all the narrative.
I totally get that. Yeah, and like, but I also do understand like why you maybe make that choice when you're writing just because like this is maybe one of the most over discussed albums of all time. And I say that as someone that used to call this like maybe my favorite rap album ever. Like I was in the cups for this album at the time it came out. We're going to talk about one more song from this album on this very episode, Winky Winky. But this song is iconic and great. And even though we all have complicated feelings about Kanye West these days, like that clap idea and the 21st century schizoid man sample, like all of those, just a couple of ideas thrown together is so monumentally powerful that like Kanye's raps on the song not even being that good, like kind of doesn't matter.
No, I like LCD. I thought I would be able to go back to this and be kind of like, cynical and critical about it. But like, no, it's still completely electric. Like it's so undeniable.
Unfortunately, the magic is worn off for me. Now my brain just associates it with like playing Saints Row 3 with my friend as a teenager and just not having any fun whatsoever.
That'll ruin a song.
My brain is just shut off the joy to anything Kanye related.
Yeah, but this is still a great song.
It's not dated. It doesn't mean the song is dated necessarily.
I think the material on this album has wildly varied in aging. Like,
yes,
some of it is like immaculate, still perfect, but like this one and a few others, I'm like,
I do like this song, but we have to talk about another My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy song on this episode, and
that one's gonna go away.
I have way less to say about this one than that. Brent, what do you think of this song?
I think that I like this song specifically. I don't have too many thoughts on, again, like the production on it and like the album as a whole. I do agree. And I was going to say, I think was like pretty pivotal for like, you know, the genre as a whole and for pop and hip hop, you know, like and I was very much also on board with this album when it came out. And I remember when this song first came out, like, you know, you were at a party or whatever, and you heard that intro and you went fucking wild, you know, like had a really big impact on the culture. But I definitely understand what you're talking about when you talk about how it's a very Obama song. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Oh boy. Well, what is our next song, Rose?
Perennial podcast favorite. It's Japandroids, Younger Us. Okay. There's a particular kind of nostalgia that hits you when you know you're too young to feel nostalgic about anything. That's Brian King bleeding with all his heart on Younger Us. Remember that night you were already in bed, said fuck it, got up to drink with me instead. Then later, give me Younger Us. And by the time the song's 3.5 minutes of straight bash wind to a close, he's just screaming his wordless anguish. Now King's not an old dude, and he still attacks like a guy who still gets out of bed to say fuck it and go drinking on a regular basis. But his sense of youthful abandon just out of reach is what pushes Younger Us straight into your gut. It's just... This song hasn't aged very well compared to some of their other stuff. I think there's like 3 songs of theirs that still kind of do it for me, and then like the rest of it is just like... I don't know.
This is a great song still. I don't know. I still have a soft spot for Japandroids. This is a great song. Like, just rip roaring, you know, a song about being, you know, again, this is a song that just it hits me in the moment of my life where I'm at right now. It hits me more than it did when I first like discovered like this like when I first discovered Celebration Rock. Like, I don't know. This still works for me.
There's another song on this record that's aged much better, just not this one, I think.
Yeah.
I gotta say, like, Japandroids is one of those bands that, like, surprisingly, given the rest of my music taste, I never got into Japandroids. But when I heard it on this playlist, when this song, I was like, I don't know, I kind of bopped to it. I didn't, like, it was one of those things where, like, I don't know if I would go back to this album and, like, put it on. But, I don't know, it hit me, even, like, again, like, first time listening to it, to be honest, which is surprising. But I don't know. I was able to like jam to it.
Yeah, it's good. I don't know. It's a good song. Wait, you guys sue me for liking Japandroids? Come
on. Yeah, I don't have strong feelings about Japandroids. Weirdly, the only album of theirs I engaged with was Near to the Wild Heart of Life, but that's just because like I didn't know like about them really at the time, and there are a lot of artists in this sort of particular core of indie that like I got super inundated with like later because I joined literally this podcast and I hung out with Jeremiah and AJ, and so Japandroids became a part of my life. I famously had 5 Japandroids beers at the first day of Pitchfork Music Festival, which is still the best beer collab that they'd done at the festival. It was so good. But yeah, I totally get the idea of having rock music that's specifically like about this kind of young freedom, like you're with your friends and you're drinking, and like this kind of like exuberance that they really capture. But I've never had this music associated with that in the same way. So even though I do like it, it's fine. I just don't like have the big reaction to it the same way that other people do.
Like, has anyone here seen them live?
Yes. Yeah, we saw them at Pitchfork Fest, like 2018.
So help me understand. So they are 2 people ostensibly, but on the record, they sound like a much larger sound.
It's all those overdubs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, does it hit the same?
It really kind of does.
It
That's what's impressive about them as a live act is like you would think it would sound totally wafer thin, and like I don't know how they do it. Maybe live overdubbing is part of it.
It's the big amp, I think. Like, they just got a big amp up on stage.
They do famously have one very, very large amplifier, which seems to be where most of the action is coming from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I saw them. I will say I cherish the memory of the one time I went to see them, just because that's the only time people had bothered to lift me up for a crowd surf.
Yeah, no, I think it's... I saw him at Pitchfork Fest, and I think I saw him in a small venue in St. Louis, and like, yeah, no, it fucking great show. Like, again, I can't wait for a new album from them. Even if the last one was like kind of like, I'm hoping to hear.
Are you saying it didn't get you all fired up?
Did not get me all fired up. Although that song is very good, but it's definitely like
that idea that you're talking about like being two people making so much noise. I think that speaks to like a general theme of this year and this playlist of like things were getting really big in music, like production wise. Like a lot of things were just getting like, like let's make things sound as big as we can possibly make them, like I feel like that's the direction that like this was like 2010, like that's where we were, it felt like,
Yeah, bombast is the word of the year, I think.
Yeah.
Bombast.
Yeah.
Good word.
There we go. And speaking of bombast, would I describe that for our next song?
No, I don't think we're speaking of bombast.
No.
I'm going to come right out now and say no.
Yeah, this is we talked about, we briefly touched on sort of like buzz bands or wannabe buzz bands. Our next act is definitely one of those like
they are
couldn't have happened any other time besides like when it happened in 2010. Or 2009, I guess, when they first kind of popped on the scene. But
you may know them for such things as Witch House. Do you all remember Witch House?
Yeah, this is very specifically time and place. We're talking about SALEM right now, which is funny enough.
SALEM song K.R.I.T.
We just talked about how this could only exist when it did, but the funny thing about this group is that I didn't listen to a SALEM song until 2020. Because of their comeback album, because Shlomo, who is one of my favorite producers of all time, has like 6 production credits on the new SALEM album. So I have listened to the whole new SALEM album, and it's okay. We can play the song, the snippet, and read the thing and talk about it a little bit. But even though they're not the most talented like vocal presences, I miss the sound of cloud rap, witch house, whatever you want to call it. Like these really, really like distorted Clams Casino-y synth sounds are immensely appealing to me personally, and really formational for like my taste in kind of like 2010s era music in both rap and electronic music. Like this is my wheelhouse 100%, even though I didn't know the song at the time.
Yeah, same. Which is why I think it's so baffling that I don't know this song, because I was totally in the pocket for all of that stuff and had never heard this song before researching for this playlist, or even like heard of SALEM. And it's very odd that they were tipped as like the ones who were gonna, break this sound and take it big, and now just like fully do not exist. And it's odd too, because this is doing this so much worse than like all the other people we could name in this field.
Totally.
Like they had the idea first, they did not have it best.
You know what they remind me of? XXYYXX.
Oh yeah,
another one of those bands
of this era. Yeah, no, I was all into that kind of shit.
Yeah.
This band is very notable for their story of like K.R.I.T gets big, and so the band gets invited to perform at the South by Southwest Fader Fort. And they just completely bomb it with all the critics in front of them, and everyone promptly abandons them after that.
Yeah, it is. There's a like a Vice article I want to say that is about.
Yeah, there's like a story about that.
Yeah, it's like a review of their new album that basically just reads as like a profile of them at the time and gets into all their weird, very sketchy and questionable antics that seem to be like part of why they were such a sensation for this very brief moment. Which again reads like as very, very odd to me now. It almost seems like part of the unfortunate legacy of Crystal Castles. This like after they break out in 2008, there's this like little wave where people go nuts for any like synthesizer band that acts like they're the Who in the 60s.
Yeah.
It's strange, and it does not hold up whatsoever.
The fascinating thing about that story, there's a lot of fascinating things. One is that apparently as Julia Fox is heavily involved in it for some goddamn reason. Apparently she knows these people and was like around them during the kind of period of time where they sort of trail off from the music industry world and disappear for like 7 years. I think if they had kept going, there's probably more likelihood that you would know about this earlier stuff. Like there's probably a lot of people who still don't know about SALEM, but also like you're exactly right that they had the right idea and they did not at all have the skills necessary to channel that into a like continually existing musical project. Like they're trying to do Lil Peep years before Lil Peep happens basically, but they are not Lil Peep. Lil Peep was very talented and they are less so as like vocal presences, and it really just kind of feels like they are, especially like you listen to the 2020 album. It's an incredible album of beats that these two vocalists feel like they're kind of haunting the album. It's like they were there once and now there are just sort of like mumbles of them rapping, like literally, like people call Playboy Carti mumble rapping, but this is literally mumble rapping. Like if that
there are vocals over there,
if that term was correct, yeah, like the vocals are so deeply buried within all the distortion and all of the
I didn't even know there were vocals.
Yeah, same.
Exactly, yeah.
I don't know if there are on this track, but apparently there are on the album.
Yeah,
unless it's like maybe this is like the streaming version is different than like whatever came out on like SoundCloud or whatever the fuck.
I don't know exactly. I'd have to listen to the song again. I'm pretty sure this one has like very, very limited vocals, but yeah,
I know the intro has like the sample, but that's about it.
Yeah, it is very much of its time in a fast. And I mean, yeah, this is right around when did the first Clams Casino instrumental tape come out is what I'm wondering.
That's actually a great benchmark because
probably like 09 or 08, because that's when Little B. I'm trying to think like when I'm God came out. It's got to be like late 09.
I'm God is later for sure. It's right around. I mean, right around here is when the first ASAP Rocky mixtape comes out. And so Instrumentals 1 comes out in 2011. So this is right before that. Okay. So they were early to something that was going to be really, really, really huge momentarily. But like ASAP Rocky, as much as he is not by any stretch of the imagination like a great rapper or even a rapper that I still like care about at all, but he had a moment there, and he had just enough talent to like really ride that wave to permanent success. And this was an era of music that I would like to go back to. I bring Witch House back. Fuck it. Like
same.
Bring it back and make it better, please.
I kind of like this song though.
It's good. I don't hate it. I mean, I'm a sucker for it, but I don't hate it. Like if you just really fucking stretch out a sample and make it super grainy like that, and really, really pound it through some distortion, like I'm probably gonna like that shit. Like,
yeah. Well then, though, our next song, our next song. What is our next song, Rose?
It is Best Coast Boyfriend. I don't even feel like reading the review for this one. It just speaks for itself.
Yeah, this got some haters in the chat before we start recording. I like this song. I think I generally do not care for this kind of indie rock, but this kind of it hit me a little bit. You know, it won me over.
Yeah, I like it, just not for its good reasons.
This stuff became a cottage industry once it got absorbed by the GTA 5 soundtrack.
Yes.
Yeah. This is like what my high school band was trying to do at the time.
And I want to say this is around the time where she was dating Waves, too. So,
oh boy.
Just to add on some extra zest to the song.
Yeah, but
can we get I wish he was my landlord
the
redux on this?
What was that?
I don't like this song. I think this is the most I've ever enjoyed Best Coast, at least, because like
same.
The guitar tone sounds a lot like the guitars on Is This the R? I always butchered it.
I was shocked by how much like dive it sounds.
Exactly, which is not what I think of when I think of Best Coast. And then when you listen to the updated version of the song that we're gonna have to also talk about, they really kill that part of it. And I really think the washed out guitars are like, I'm a sucker for those. Like, I was a fan of Youth Lagoon around the time that we're talking about here in like 2011, 2012. So like, I love some really just like slathered in reverb indie rock if it's done right. And even though I don't love this song, it's okay. It's very inoffensive to me.
That's the thing, is I think my enjoyment of this song is dictated by like how much it sounds like other things I like better.
Yes.
And this song just kind of gets a pass by proxy. Like, you know, it reminds me of Dive. It reminds me of Heinz. It reminds me of Land of Talk. Like, there's again, many better iterations of this sound. And this is just close enough to those that I'm like, yeah, lump it in. I'll give it a pass. This is working on me.
Mm-hmm.
It is. So for the song's 10th anniversary, they decided to make an LGBTQ friendly version of the song, which just
yeah, I think we have to listen to like a little bit of it.
It just swaps out a bunch of words. So
I appreciate the sentiment, but as Lily said, like today,
this song is fundamentally het.
Today is not the time for us to be giving credit to a cis non-queer person just stumbling through trying to do inclusivity. Like we're not in the mood for it today for a very specific reason that we're not even going to talk about. But I do appreciate that they did that they included the trans flag on the artwork, and that they tried, you know.
I know, but still, there's just something so funny about hearing her go, partner!
Yeah, the partner...
oh boy, that moment.
The partner line is funny.
It's so funny.
Also, the song just sounds way fucking worse, this production.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so badly produced.
It sounds better.
It sounds like
I guess it sounds like objectively better, but like...
It's better recorded, but they take away the dreaminess of the song that was like what really helps sell it. Because like she's not a bad vocalist, but like I don't know. I think the mixing is just way worse in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know who said that it sounded like a live take, but this definitely sounds like the Audio Tree live version.
Yes, exactly. It's like well recorded, but clearly they're just like. I think it's just funny that they thought they're like, I guess she said that the reason why she did it is because that it's just like, I didn't realize that this was like a queer anthem, but I guess it is. And it's like, yeah, like queer people have boyfriends too. Like,
I'm glad I didn't know that quote existed. And I want to bring up this point because listen, straight people, if you think you need to issue the course corrective, you don't. It's more fun to let us just play with it. Like, a girl singing this song about her girlfriend and keeping the lyrics exactly the same is way more queer than like shoving a bunch of, you know, other like less gendery terms into the song.
Exactly.
And again, this song is just so fundamentally het that like it can't be fixed with that.
I'm glad, Jackie, you mentioned Marika Hackman earlier because that like her boyfriend song, case in point.
Yeah, I guess we could talk about it on this episode because I think I don't think we're going to talk about it.
I forgot it was coming up.
It's fine. No, I don't even think we're going to talk about it.
No, it didn't get Best New Track.
On Should Have Been Number Ones because it didn't get Best New Track, so maybe we will talk about this. But I was doing research earlier trying to see, like, did Marika Hackman ever get a Best New Track? So I looked at track reviews, Marika Hackman, and I stumbled on something beautiful, which is... A straight woman reviewing the song Boyfriend by Marika Hackman, who clearly does not understand that the song is a lesbian song. The headline of the article is like, Marika Hackman will steal your boyfriend. And it's like, did you listen to the song? Did you read and they did read the lyrics because they literally quote I'm not going to put this writer on blast because like whatever, but it was so fucking funny because that song is like the whole point of Boyfriend by Marika Hackman is that it's playing with what is the expected narrative and the whole concept of the song is like, don't worry about me around your girlfriend. I'm just a girl. Or she needs a man to please her, but actually I'm sleeping with her and there's nothing you can do about it. Like it's this neener song that I think is genius and one of my favorite pop songs of the decade. And to watch someone not have that just swoosh right over their head was hilarious to me when I discovered that today. Go listen to Marika Hackman instead of Best Coast is my opinion on the matter.
Fair. Well then, two more songs on the list unless we had any final lingering thoughts on Best Coast Boyfriend. But our next song then, Rose. What's our next song?
Sprawl 2, Mountains Beyond Mountains by Arcade Fire, off their album, off their Grammy-winning album, The Suburbs.
Oh, God. I that's like part of like why they became like they already were a big band before then.
They're world eclipsing now, for better or worse.
Yeah. I'll let you say your take, because I already spoiled the take somewhat when I was talking about Power.
So first of all, this is still a good song. This is a really good song. But like I think this is the most Obama song of the week.
Which I think is fair. Like, it's definitely second place for me.
I think that this song is really really good. In general, I am a sucker for. I am of the controversial take that this is the best Arcade Fire song, which the best Arcade Fire album. Album. I think The Suburbs is their best album, which is only controversial in that it's too basic because it won Album of the Year and people are just sort of like, whatever. That's the critically acclaimed one, but like, I don't know. I think I've always connected with it more than Funeral, because even though I love Wake Up and I like how hard on sleevey they get sometimes, like I think Suburbs is just a little bit more removed in a way that really helps Arcade Fire. Like I think Win is kind of restraining some of his impulses that I don't always enjoy, that he then unrestrains the hell out of on Everything Now and the new album, which I'm sure we'll compare this to. But
the Suburbs is the last Arcade Fire album to have an editor.
Yes, that's exactly it. Like it feels considered and feels very purposeful still. And even though I'm like a lot of the kind of commentary of this album or whatever, like the kind of, oh, it's so deep under the big pop melodies, like it's not that deep. It's definitely not a deep album. Win Butler doesn't have a lot of like really complex things to say about like American suburbia or whatever, but like I don't know, there's some bops. I still love the title track. I still love this song. I always like the Regine song on an Arcade Fire album generally, and this is a real good one.
Yeah, I'm generally a sucker for Arcade Fire, and like in most things. I'm gonna be honest, I like less so about their latest release.
That's same. I mean, I like it more than Everything Now, but that's not saying much.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like they definitely like have a progression where, like I think you put it really well that The Suburbs was like the last one of their albums that like really felt like super cohesively melded together. Like, yeah, I agree with that 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're still in my regular listening though. Another one of those.
I don't really like them that much. My last FM says I have a lot of Scrabbles, but I have zero memory of listening to this band as much as it says I did.
I think their best record, actually, this is a take I don't hear too often, but I think their best record is Neon Bible.
Yeah, Neon Bible is good. I've never gravitated toward it as much, but that's just because I don't know. I wasn't as big into the first two. I kind of came around with this one.
It's the most Springsteen one, and that's why it rules. And then I found actual Bruce Springsteen. I was just like, oh, I can just listen to this instead.
Neon Bible is the best record to listen to when it's like it's Thanksgiving weekend and you're like stuck at home with your family and you have to, but it's snowing, and so you go to the Starbucks because there's like nothing else to do, and you're just like hanging out in the Starbucks and you're bored, and then you're just like you put on Neon Bible and you see the snow going down, and you're like, yeah, this is about how it feels. Like things suck and like I'm in a Starbucks. It's like the best, but like in a good way. Yes. You know, it's like
totally. I mean, it's up there with Death Consciousness and Turn on the Bright Lights as one of the all-time like November albums.
Yeah, exactly. November album.
Yeah, this one is whatever to me. I wouldn't say. I guess it's like if I had to like pick a least favorite song this week, it's like I guess it's this one. Like it's not bad. It's just like I just do not. Besides a couple of songs, I just don't. I just again, we talked about this earlier with Japandroids, like Robyn. This truly was a band where it's like you had to be there, because if you weren't there, you're just like, what? Like I just don't really. I don't get.
It does feel like a dispatch from another era.
Yeah. Sorry, Mr. AJ Moser, if you're listening. But I feel like you've known this about me, that I'm just like I don't get Arcade Fire really. Like,
yeah, you had to be there or Canadian or both. Those were the entry points.
Yeah.
Which, like, by the way, I'm somewhat recusing myself.
Physical sense, I guess.
Yeah, you have to be there either temporally or geographically, which is like why I kind of partially recused myself from the Japandroids conversation as well. Like, there's a certain amount of like geographic ancestral bias.
Live your truth, Lily. Live your truth.
I also just think it's like they're so. Arcade Fire are one of the most aggressively Canadian exports out of Canada's music scene, and which is why I find it so funny that their new album is like so obsessed with like America, because it's just like, motherfuckers, like, you're not from here. Like
well, half of them are, though, which is also the very interesting thing about like Arcade Fire Canada. But that's a whole other diatribe for, I don't know, whenever we do a sidebar or a discography.
The thing is, they've been hanging out with Father John Misty too much.
The new album is very Father John Misty.
Like, literally, he was listening to their sessions.
As a noted non-Father John Misty enjoyer who hasn't heard We yet, that has me very concerned. I will say that, like, I get why this was the big song of this album. It's never been the Arcade Fire song for me. Like, I love The Suburbs, like this song just fine. Love Arcade Fire in general. This song, I don't know, it's all right. And again, thinking about it in context, like, it's easy to take for granted what a big move it was for like a really like core 2000s like twee indie rock band to, I guess, do kind of a dance pop number.
Yes.
Like, I think that was maybe part of why this caused like such a splash, despite being like,
I will say,
as far as the writing goes, maybe one of the less remarkable songs on The Suburbs, in my opinion.
It's very much like, this is of all the songs on The Suburbs, and I do think some of those songs have aged very nicely. Like, the title track is maybe my favorite Arcade Fire song ever, but like, this is the one that lyrically most feels like, okay, we're making a song called The Suburbs. What should we write about? Shopping malls, sprawl, suburbs. It's very like looking at the first thing you see in the room to come up with inspiration type lyricism. But the reason why,
and just kind of foreshadowing the albums that follow it on that level.
I think the reason why I have an attachment to this song is that for anyone who likes LCD Soundsystem, there's a Soul Wax remix of this track that is very LCD Soundsystem-y, where it's just like taking the kind of dance pop skeleton of this song and like just beefing it up a little bit with the synthesizers and drums. I think you would like that a lot more, Lily, if you haven't heard it already. Like,
I haven't. Very interesting.
It's very much just like taking the subtext of this song, like musically, and making it text, basically. Like, it is a very, very good remix that is the reason why this song is like lodged in my head as a really.
Shout out Soul Wax.
Oh my god,
all day.
Soul Wax rule. I've seen too many DJs once, and I haven't seen them live as Soul Wax, but my French Kings, yes. We stand. They have, if anyone is not aware, if you don't follow too many DJs on Instagram, they have literally like the number 1 goals record room of anyone I've ever seen in my entire life. It is like an underground, like, it looks like it would be like the private study of the president or something like that. It's like it's so sleek and like all leather, and it's dark and like mood lit. And then there's just like walls of records, and on their Instagram, they will do these pictures where it's just one wall of records that they've all coordinated. Like, here are all the records I have that have an eyeball on the cover, or like, here are all the records I have that have a banana on the cover, or like they have all these different like themes of the ones they post online, and it's really, really, really cool. I highly recommend checking it out. They have too much money, clearly, is what I learned from those pictures, but hey.
Oh boy.
Power to them.
Well then, our final song of the evening.
Oh my god.
Well, I guess afternoon, because we usually record these at night or like in the evening. It's like 2 p.m. right now in LA, so it's very weird to be like podcasting at this hour. It feels wrong, but we're here, we're doing it. And our final song, Rose. What is the last song of the playlist?
You know.
You want me to say it? I mean, I'll say it.
Everybody knows.
The last song of the playlist this evening is Kanye West Monster, featuring Justin Vernon, Rick Ross, Jay-Z, and Nicki Minaj. And we have a snippet, but I feel like the snippet doesn't really
play the full thing.
The snippet doesn't tell the full story here. You got to hear like the entire
I picked the
song.
best part though for the snippet.
Yeah, let's hear the snippet. But here's the thing. If you're listening to this episode, you know what Monster is. Like, you've listened to Monster at least 10 times. Like, come on. Yeah, this song is so. Yeah, it's one of those songs where you're like, you would think it doesn't hold up. It's so stupid that it's so fucking good and fun.
Exactly.
This one is like, what other stupid one?
No,
literally, like this song is like just the silliest posse cut imaginable, and it rules. Like everyone is just doing like their dumbest verse possible, and it's just. Oh,
I think it's the perfect one on this playlist.
It's so much fun.
Yeah.
It's so telling that like Kanye's verse in the song is insane, Rick Ross's verse in the song is insane, and then we are not going to talk about any of them at all because they are outshadowed by two things. One, Nicki Minaj announcing herself to the world with like one of the most iconic feature verses ever. Just like instantly, like she was already big, but it's like one of the most star-making turns in a rap feature ever. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have the Jay-Z monster verse, which is... I can't believe there was ever a period. I mean, I can, but like we immediately as a culture went like, isn't it funny? Isn't it stupid that Jay-Z has a line in the song where he just lists different kinds of monsters, and then immediately everyone realized, no, that's the best part of the song. That's why it's good.
Why it rules is because he took the assignment and he just went as literal as possible.
I'm gonna try to pull up, but Matty, we need to pull up the video that Chris posted.
Yeah, I mean, well, again, Chris posted a video in the chat of
a TikTok, I think.
Well, it's obviously in TikTok form, but it is, so Jay-Z. That verse got cut down. It got cut down.
Oh, yes,
like
little known fact.
Yeah, like that verse is supposed to be like a lot longer, but got cut.
They made time for Nicki.
Yeah, exactly. The Nicki verse is so long. It's like you can't cut anything from the Nicki verse. Like you gotta have the Nicki verse. So let me see if I can find this video that Chris posted. Where is it at? Okay, here we go.
This right here.
Sorry, I gotta do this Discord search.
Best New Pod, I think, is where it was.
Yeah, I like I said, I'm typing with. I got the microphone. I got one hand. Like,
to fill time while we're trying to find this.
Here we go.
I will tee up the question for us to answer later. But like regarding the Nicki verse, truly has anyone been the most compelling rapper on earth for a more like mathematically precise number of bars?
Yes.
I don't think so. Yeah,
like
I think absolutely. But okay, here
just a head and shoulders unambiguous number one for exactly 32 bars.
Let's talk about Nicki for just a couple seconds, and then we'll go back to Jay-Z Monster, because once we start talking about that, like we're gonna get on that tangent.
Yeah, but so here's the extended verse of Jay-Z's Monster that got cut from the record.
Sasquatch, Godzilla, King Kong, Loch Ness, Goblin, Ghoul, a zombie with no conscience, Dracula, Mothman, Dragon, Bacillus, Leprechaun, Mummy, Minotaur, Werewolf, Mermaid, Frankenstein, Troll, Invisible Man, Ghost, Xenomorph, Abominable Snowman, Gremlin, Chupacabra, Manticore, Cyclops, Swamp Man, Cthulhu, Giant Snake, Cerberus, the monster from Cloverfield, Major Balrog, creature from the Black Lagoon, Pennywise the Clown, Mechagodzilla, Tyrannosaurus Rex, Giant Squid, Sirens, Ruby Man, Gargoyle, Goat Man, Sandworm, Medusa, Skinwalker, Skeleton, Blossom, Pumpkin Man, Scarecrow, Chimera, Sphinx, Centaur, Candyman, Pyramid Head, Bride of Frankenstein, the Monsters, the Rancor, the Sarlacc, Freddy Krueger, the Babadook.
Great bit.
So yeah,
Incredible.
Oh god,
The Babadook.
the Babadook.
But it is really just incredible, like, especially because the whole story of this album, like, so this album is made entirely in Hawaii. Kanye creates basically a compound in Hawaii where he has a house that he's rented out, and he has a like 3-story studio that he has rented all of the studio space in, and basically would fly out everyone who was involved on the album. So Nicki, Jay-Z, Rick Ross, all of them get flown out to live in the house, come stay with him in Hawaii. And then he never slept in the house. He slept the entire time in the studio. And basically Kanye would run up and down stairs from 3 sessions that were happening simultaneously and be like directing people to do different things. And it's just very funny to think about, like, this very, like, Kanye is taking this like insanely seriously, as he is wont to do, and he's brought all these people, and he's like really pushing all of them to be at the top of their A game. Like Nicki and Pusha have both talked about how when they recorded their parts of the album, like Kanye would make them do it over and over again, and famously when Pusha recorded his Runaway verse, he made him keep doing it and said more douchebaggy. The verse needs to be it needs to be more douchey. Like you need to keep upping the ante on it. And like clearly with Nicki, it was the same thing where he was trying to get her like, I want you to just go insane for this short period of time. Give this everything you have. And then all those people bringing their A game, and Jay-Z's just like, song's called Monster. What if I named some monsters? And that's beautiful. I think that's great.
It really is amazing how the love is just like in there, and it's only the second funniest part of the verse.
Yeah.
God, it's an incredible song. This again, just so many. Again, Rick Ross pops in to just call himself a fat motherfucker, and then introduce Kanye's verse. Jay-Z listing off monsters. Just, again, taking the name of the song literally. Kanye just bringing in some violent bars, but fits the vibe of the song. And then again, a star making verse from Nicki Minaj. Like it is the song. It is the song that created a couple million barbs. Like barbs
Absolutely.
for life were made from this song. And then Justin Vernon coming in the end, like just with Charlie Wilson helping harmonize at some points. It's just like what the fuck?
God, wait, yes, Justin Vernon is on this track.
Yeah. I always forget, and now like in hindsight too, like
he's not giving the falsetto, which is why I think it's a little hard to tell.
His involvement in this album is the origin story of current Bon Iver. Like
yes.
Him doing this vocoder singing is what leads him down the path of 22 a million and all that stuff. Like totally.
Yeah, like.
And I think that like the fact that Justin Vernon's on this track, again, I think that's a big reason why I think it's the perfect punctuation mark for this playlist specifically, because again, that's a big part of this album's production and like whole arrangement being like so influential in the next 10
say, like this reminds me, so I one time in when I went to school at the University of Vermont, and like I one of the first days of college I saw his tour with Volcano Choir. And they would, the side project where they did the Woods song that ends up, getting tossed into, like, that's where actually the genesis of where that came from. And like, I'll never forget how like everyone just came to see Volcano Choir, this random side project, just to hear him do like a 1 minute long snippet of like the vocals from Lost in the Woods.
Yes.
And it was like this venue filled with drunk people just like really desperately wanting to sing it. I feel like it's followed him around in a way that's very positive, obviously, but at the same time he actually looked visibly upset at the show. Like
totally.
he like this was a
I never thought about that, but yeah, when I saw Bon Iver in 2011, it is funny in retrospect to think about like people losing their minds for Woods, which is like the 4 minute long vocoder only song. That was like the crowd killer, which of course does not happen without it being sampled on this album.
I also think it's really funny to think about, like, and I think this does speak to Kanye's really great ability to find collaborators. It's like, how did Kanye listen to For Emma forever ago and be like, what this guy needs to do is be on My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy? Like, what? How do you connect those two? I mean, it is really like he helps transform Bon Iver's sound in that way, but it is.
It's interesting. It's like there's like some sort of nexus there, but right between like Kanye West, Justin Vernon, Francis and the Lights, Chance the Rapper, whole like this like weird blending of like the very white indie pop of like this era, and then hip hop deciding to just like grab parts of it that it likes and then toss away the stuff that is just completely different and doesn't work. I don't know. It's definitely an example of how visionary Kanye is.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like that aspect of it is very interesting. Again, thinking about like the reception to this at the time, it's funny to think about like it being such a mind-blowing thing that like, the acoustic guitar guy is on the Kanye album in a way that now reads as very reductive. Like now everyone's like, well, yeah, obviously people collaborate. But like at the time that was this kind of like crossing of genre lines that felt like,
once again, Big Grams.
Big
Grams. Come back to Big Grams. There was someone hated on Big Grams earlier. It was like, I was
a little hating on them, but that's just because they were just sort of like this thing that seemed to only exist to be played at festivals.
I've got a better example to hate on. Banks and Steels.
Okay, that's the worst version of it for sure.
Jael, so I like remember being so hyped for Big Grams at the time and just like could not wait for that project. And then like all the momentum had kind of vanished by the time it came out and I never listened to it. Is Big Grams good?
Oh yes,
okay.
Underrated.
Okay,
Rated.
I'll have to finally get to it. That's very interesting to hear.
It reminded me of that like Justin Murphy Gorillaz like Andre 3000 collaboration, and it's kind of like, but like was kind of ignored at the time, and I feel like it also runs through in Monster, right? like the kind of, you know, synth heavy dark production, like it's the same style. I mean, I feel like it was a little bit too late. Like if it had come out around this time, it would have been a monster, but pun intended. But but like the it came out like what, around like 2014, 2015. At that point, the wind kind of died out.
And of course, Kanye goes further in this direction. The next album, he brings in Daft Punk, Staffelstein, all of the people on Yeezus. Like he just pushes this way further into that territory on the next album. But oh god, I totally had forgotten about Banks and Steels, and now I've pulled up their artist bio on Spotify, and I'm just like rolling my eyes into the back of my head, like, oh,
so good.
Paul Banks, for someone who I love, like there are a few artists I enjoy their music more while I think they're more of a dumbass. Like the ratio is really high for Paul Banks, but at least he's a dumbass in just like seemingly not super harmful ways. He's just kind of off in his own universe. And
wait, are you telling me that the guy who made a mixtape entitled "Everybody on My Dick Like They Supposed to Be" is a
Jael, are you aware of "Everybody on My Dick Like They Supposed to Be," Paul Banks' rap mixtape that he made?
You mean the guy from Interpol?
Yes.
You're not getting two people confused. That's who I'm talking about.
Wait, but is it anything like Ezra Koenig's like pizza rap thing?
Oh, I forgot about that.
No,
Jesus
it's serious.
Christ.
Like this is like a serious tape he made.
No, yeah, he was definitely trying to start a rap career.
Matty, it's not on streaming services. You're not gonna find
Well, that's good for good for Paul Banks.
I'll send
It is good for Paul Banks.
I will send it to you afterward, Jael. It has one of the funniest album artworks of all time. Everybody on my It's really great.
Pitchfork did a review of it, you know, so you could just search.
I just want to say, like, I've been meditating on this lyric a lot, and I just don't know what it means. Like, I feel like I've definitely pulled up to the bank with a funny face, but I don't know. I don't know what it means, and I don't know. I feel like it's a very relatable line. Like, I'm wondering if anyone has
to quote another Kanye West line. It's provocative. It gets the people going. Like that is literally how I describe. Speaking of him, Paul Banks' lyricism is like, do I know any of what he's saying on Turn on the Bright Lights? No, it's all fucking nonsense. But does it make me feel really intensely? Yes. And that's the same thing with Pull Up with a Funny Face. It's like sometimes a lyric that you can't actually like think of the actual meaning, it can become more powerful because it's just like, I don't know what it means, but I feel it by the way that she says it. And so it's more communicative in that way.
Oh my god, this album came out in 2013?
Yes.
In my head, this like definitely happened in 2009. Wow, that makes it so much worse.
Yeah.
Which was like a difficult challenge for this project to set out for itself, is being worse.
The album artwork of Everybody on My Dick Like They Supposed to Be is very much like trying to be Viper, is seemingly the vibe I would describe it as. Yeah, I don't know. It's what a time. 2020, early 2010s. It was a different era in many ways.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and you do, in contrast to last week's playlist.
Oh my god, that's incredible.
Wow. Sponsored.
I had sponsored 21 songs.
A Talib Kweli feature, an LP feature.
Can we check the comments section?
There's no comments.
Got a
no, it said 9
That's
comments.
all we needed to know.
Got a whopping 2.0 from Pitchfork.
Yeah. Oh, hang on. Let me see.
As I said on Twitter, it's like Pitchfork started only getting...
Stop gentrifying that piff, white people.
Wow.
From I Am the Best 008. All of your track is addictive. You're a genuine artist, man. Best Kill Me is on my hot list. We are looking for rappers to perform on stage. Send me your name and number to call you. After your immediate booking, please send to realswag71 at yahoo.com.
That guy did not know that Paul Banks was the... I'm sure that person had never heard of Interpol and was just
I was hoping for more post-punk rap a la Cities of Beef. Dude.
Okay, we gotta wrap this up. Monster, great song. Again, great song full of people that are awesome and cool now.
I also think it's telling that there's so much stuff that goes on in the song Monster that we didn't even talk about Kanye saying, I put the pussy in a sarcophagus.
Yeah.
I was going to mention, does anyone else get like a viscerally negative reaction to the way he says pussy?
Yes.
Like, whatever thing about his delivery, I have like the most like misophonic response to.
Mm-hmm.
Nope, absolutely not. I think I love hearing him say that word.
Wow.
He's good at it.
I'm kind of pro, but I really like what's the song on this album that the one that it's like I'm drinking early. I'm forgetting the name of it. It's the one.
Is it? I'm drinking earlier. Now I'm driving.
I believe it's that one. Which one is that?
That's Power. That's Power. We talked about.
So that's not it. Let me pull up the fucking track list. I'm gonna kill.
Oh, are you thinking of Hell of a Life? Maybe.
Yeah. I was about to say I'm the kind of Kanye fan that enjoys Hell of a Life. So like I'm willing to.
That sounds good.
That is good. Yeah. Like
Kanye being aggressively horny does not upset me as someone whose favorite Kanye album is Yeezus.
Yeah. Same. Here's the thing.
I have no problem with the line itself. It's just like a weird response I have to that specific
just the line
saying of that word.
I get it.
Look, I have, again, spoiler alert for next week. We will be talking about another Kanye song from this album that I will have a lot more thoughts on when it comes to like this album and Kanye's legacy of like when it comes to this record. But Power is like it's almost Flanderized to some extent, where it's just been used in so many fucking commercials and video games and shit, where it's just like it's still a very good song, but it doesn't quite have the impact it has now, like it had back then. And this song is definitely like one where it's like this song is just funnier now than it was.
It's the Seven Nation Army effect. It's like when you become a stadium staple, it just sort of dents a little bit. Like Black Skinhead is never going to hit the way it did when you saw it on SNL the first time, because now you just hear it like in basketball arenas, and it's just like kind of you're used to it.
Pretty much, yeah. But yeah, that's it. That's the episode. Jael and Bren, thank you so much for coming on the pod.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much. It was absolutely a pleasure. Y'all are so hilarious.
We're happy to have you guys on. Hey, if you're listening to this and you haven't already, stream Ekko Astral, their first single, T-Baby. It's out now. There's more new music coming on the way. And spoiler alert, it's really, really good. I love Jael and Bren's music. Also, Bren is also in Pretty Bitter, another great band. You should go check them out. Really great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, are we gonna play off with Too
that's
Hot?
right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so we have another single coming out soon. Date TBD because we're still shooting the video, but we are gonna let everyone hear a little snippet to kind of lead us off if we want to.
Yeah.
Now, our first
guest for next week.
Go ahead.
Like,
let's do that.
Somebody we usually have. Okay, so next week we got Molly and Chris from And Introducing.
Oh, hell yeah!
They will be back.
So excited.
Molly and Chris, always welcome guests on this show.
Good to have.
But yeah, let's play it out with a little bit of the next Ekko Astral single, Too Hot.
Alrighty then, we'll see y'all next week for another Best New Pod episode then, and enjoy the song.